Rest now, because the next stage is the individual time trial, almost 40 kilometers, a long journey across the centre of Italy to the start town of Pesaro, and we'll race into Ubigno, and that is, as I say, 39.4 to be absolutely precise, as we now run down on the east side for the finish.
First real test for all of the contenders. Early man to go out there, Vladimir Gusev, is the time of 58.46, but it's just been beaten by Marco Pinotti, and that's a great ride by the man from High Road.
Yes, Pinotti joining Team High Road, and former pink jersey wearer in the GIRO d'Italia, and so he's got the best time now, and not surprisingly, because he's a very good time trial rider. Now let's see what can happen here now.
This is Bruce Jean, and he's a man who in the past has only ever really shown glory in any form of professional cycling in the individual time trial, and Phil, he's actually posting some very fast times out on the course.
Well, he's almost 34 years of age, as he will be on the 15th of June. Now what's happening out here, because this is very interesting now. This is a catch here, Contador pulling back his man.
Cloden.
Cloden,
yeah.
Pulling back. Quite right, Paul.
They both look very similar, actually.
Rebellini's caught here.
Well, that's a bit of a surprise there, that he's managed to pull back David Rebellin. Rebellin, not really one of the great individual time trialists, but Denny Menchov is putting in a fine performance here, and he's going to challenge that time of Marco Pinotti, 57.17. The fast men now, Phil, are starting to show here in the Giro d'Italia, although I'm not sure that Menchov is going to beat Pinotti.
I think it's a bit too far, because as you can see, they've even found a hill finish in the time trial. And a long effort here by Menchov, that strengthens the ride of Pinotti, because Menchov is a big challenger here. Must be considered a favourite for when we get towards the mountains. Vandenbroek is home with 57.59. He drops a place. Menchov in at second. Now here's the champion of Italy of years gone by, Bruce Jean, and his only victories have been in time trials. Now let's see what he can deliver here, because he is in a much better position here to displace Pinotti. He's got plenty of time to get up this hill. So we've got a new leader now, and a man who really could win this time trial.
Well, he's got himself a good minute to get to the finishing line. I remember many years ago he led a stage of the Giro d'Italia almost through the whole of the afternoon, only to get beaten right down towards the end. But I think on this occasion, Phil, he's going to set the barrier very high indeed. He's looking at Pinotti's time there of 57.17, and clap! He's gone right inside there by 36 seconds.
Well, now he's on the man to beat, because last year he won stage 13 in this race, when it was in fact a mountain time trial, and he rode it then as champion as well. But now he's no longer the champion, but he's certainly the leader, and a good gap opened on Pinotti.
Fourth place finisher at the moment there by Levi Leipheimer. Andreas Cloden riding himself into the Giro d'Italia. I would have to think that of all of the riders on Team Astana, Cloden is probably going to be the team leader here at the Giro, depending on how Alberto Contador rides himself in. And starting last man, really in a defensive role, I think, this afternoon, Phil, the Italian road champion, Giovanni Visconti, in the Maglia Rosa, the pink jersey of leadership.
Last man, the sweeper of 176, who are still in this race at the moment. And it's going to be a lonely ride, I think, for Visconti. See, one thing I think he's assured of, because his gaps are still big enough, he'll still be in the pink at the end of this day. But how much time will his rivals pull back on him?
Well, the difficult thing about a time trial of almost 40 kilometres in length is if you're not a good time trialist, you can see yourself losing anything between 3 and 5 minutes on big men like, of course, there we were just looking at Andreas Cloden. Paolo Salvadelli, not a bad ride by him at the 32 kilometre mark. He's in 5th place there, just 28 seconds adrift.
Yes, well, Il Falco is also a pretty good time trialist. He's a past winner, of course, of the Giro d'Italia. This is Danilo De Luca, last year's winner. Also a man that can survive better than most in the time trial. Chance now this really is Alberto Contador at the 32 kilometres, 10 seconds best time. That is a very good start. He's determined.
Well, it's amazing the gangly style of Alberto Contador there, wearing number 22. His teammate coming up to the finish line to put himself up at the top of the overall classification if he can, Andreas Cloden. He's looking to challenge the time now of Marco Pinotti, who holds on to second. He's going to do that, so the German from Astana slips into second place, 20 seconds adrift.
Well, I think Cloden will feel pretty pleased with that, and so too will Team Astana, because when it counts, they're making it count. Here is Salvadelli racing for the 3rd slot now of Pinotti, and I don't think he'll get there in about 8 seconds' time, so he'll probably slip behind. but Sabadelli nonetheless is battling it out as he heads up towards the finish.
Well, he's catching Leonardo Pipoli here, Phil, who started 4 minutes in front of him on the road, so it just gives you an idea of how well Paolo Salvadelli has ridden. He's going to stop the clock there just inside of the time of Denis Menchov, so that'll be fourth for the moment for Paolo Salvadelli.
That was a very good effort there. Pipoli quite clearly riding this tour in favour of his team captain Riccardo Rico. He's just proved that now. It wasn't a big effort in the time trial by him. But Sabadelli wants yet another good tour. This is the lonely world now. A little bit of rain on the camera lens as well. The lonely world of the race leader, Giovanni Visconti. Nothing up... Oh, I say there's nothing up front. It looks as though there might be a rider up there.
Could be a motorbike, a specialised bike for Giovanni Visconti. A nice full disc wheel in the back there. He's got everything on his side to make him as aerodynamic as possible. But you really do have to be a specialist in the individual time trial now, Al Contador.
But it's the conditions that have changed, and these cobbles are glacial now. They really are, and that rain is pelting down, so they're going to have to sit in the saddle on these corners, otherwise they might be sitting on the cobblestones. But Contador is still running close. The best time is Bruchagin, 56.41, but I think the weather's going to, if he does get beaten, it calls down to the weather here, because those cobbles will be glacial now.
Well, he took it very precariously around that corner. He's looking to challenge the time of Marzio Bruchagin, 56 minutes and 41 seconds. And yes, I think, Phil, he'll be getting a little bit of wheel slip because of these cobblestones. That's Pellizotti, the man that started 2 minutes in front of him. He's caught Pellizotti and passed him, and he's gone outside the time there of Bruchagin.
Yeah, and remember, he was 10 seconds better, and now he slipped behind it by just a few seconds. So I think the rain has made the difference, and Bruchagin is going to be pretty happy now. He is very relieved at that, because there's no one really left to disturb Bruchagin now. He will win this stage, and he's no stranger to winning a time trial stage of the Giro either.
Yeah, but what I think is a little bit scary, though, Phil, is Team Astana have put 3 men into the top 10 in the individual time trial. Now, that's an indication that these guys, despite the last-minute invitation, are right on form for the upcoming mountains.
Well, I think they're trying to prove a point to the organiser of the Tour de France as well, that they really should have been invited back, but we all know the story behind the controversy there, and they won't be in the Tour de France this year. But Visconti, as he closes down now and sweeps up his time, already matching that of Leipheimer's, who was in 9th, slipping rapidly down this. But even so, this isn't a bad ride, Paul.
I reckon it's a good ride by Visconti, losing himself only a minute on a day when he could have lost 3 or 4, so that will keep him pretty solidly up at the top end of the overall classification. He's going to be very happy with that ride this afternoon.
The riders made the most of the rest day yesterday, although half it was spent travelling across to the start of this time trial, and they brought the bad weather as well now. Very uncharacteristic. There's Matthias Rus outside the hour for him, outside the time of Jens Voigt.
Well, in fact, I think you were right when you said you thought you'd seen a rider in front of him, because, in fact, let's not forget that Visconti caught and passed this rider who started 2 minutes ahead of him. So that's a great ride by the Italian champion.
It's the old story. Pull on the leader's jersey, you ride like 2 men, I think. And he will lose time to all of the main contenders, but he'll still be in pink tonight, and that, I suspect, was his main aim. Philippe Dynaner, the Irishman, in his first Giro. As this is Roos coming home now, he'll slip right out of the contention, I think, with that performance.
He lost himself more than 4 minutes, and as the ringside commentator says, the ultimo corridore. So Bruchagin gets himself the win.
He gets the win by 8 seconds over Contador.